Welcome to Animals Today, your home for serious talk about animals. I'm Dr. Lori Kirshner. For those of you who don't know about or don't remember Cecil the Lion, I'd like to share with you the story about Cecil. Cecil was a famous African lion who was well known and loved in Zimbabwe. Cecil was Africa's most famous and beloved lion. He was the favorite among the locals and the tourists. People would come from all over the world to see him on safaris at the Hwang National Park. He was always just hanging around, welcoming anyone who wanted to say hello to him. But he was not only a major tourist attraction in one of Zimbabwe's national parks, and like I said, he was adored by the locals there. In addition, he was being studied and tracked by University of Oxford as part of a long-term study in order to benefit conservation and benefit other animals like Cecil. He was renowned as a gentle giant. Then, one day, this was in July of 2015, a low-life piece of trash, a trophy hunter called Walter Palmer, intentionally lured beautiful Cecil from his peaceful existence, from his protected sanctuary, so he could be shot with a bow and arrow. But when Palmer hit Cecil with his arrow, Cecil didn't die. He stumbled off, terribly wounded and bloody, and no doubt in pain, and suffered like this for 40 hours. Until this horrible person, Walter Palmer, finally captured and finished Cecil off with a bullet. Then, Palmer skinned Cecil so the skin could be salted and stuffed by a taxidermist, and Palmer cut off Cecil's head so he could mount it as a trophy on his wall. And then he left Cecil's body there to rot. This disgraceful, despicable human being, Dr. Walter Palmer, doctor, they call him doctor, because he's a dentist in Minnesota. He paid over $55,000 to hunt and savagely and brutally take the life of this beautiful, majestic, beloved, star attraction lion, Cecil. Now, if you know me or listen to my shows, you know I adamantly oppose hunting. I believe in the right to bear arms. I have absolutely no problem with owning a gun or guns for the purpose of protecting yourself, your loved ones, and your property. But to me, there's absolutely no justification for someone who chooses to kill animals for sport, for the fun of it. In fact, in spite of what hunters say to justify their actions, like, we're getting in touch with nature. Oh, you're getting in touch with nature. Isn't that nice? Or they say, we need to hunt because we're thinning the herd. Oh yeah, the herd needs thinning because last year it was estimated that there were only 20,000 wild lions left in the world. Lions have become extinct in 26 African countries. Lions have vanished from over 95% of their historic range. And with only 20,000 wild lions left, yeah, the herd needs thinning. Or they justify hunting by saying, hunting is part of our culture. We're spending time with our kids. You know, because teaching your kids to have fun by causing animals to suffer and violently killing animals is so much better than teaching children how to be kind to animals and the importance of extending compassion and respect to other living beings. Isn't that like one of the most important and valuable life lessons we want to teach our kids? And the values parents want to instill in their kids and humane education is for a whole nother topic, okay? But just let me emphasize this one point here. Humane education can play such an important role in creating an empathetic and compassionate person, child. It just seems to be morally repugnant to want to teach your kids how to hunt and kill animals. So, in spite of what hunters say to justify their actions or to placate those of us who are absolutely disgusted by the hunters, most hunters hunt for the thrill of the kill and the self-serving, ego-boosting exploitation of beautiful living creatures. And in my opinion, there's some psychopathology going on here. For someone to get enjoyment and thrill out of killing an innocent animal, I mean, that's the thing. These people do enjoy it. They enjoy watching and knowing they're causing this needless suffering onto their victims, and they don't care. They like it. It's like that movie where the serial killer gets off on watching their victims suffer and die. You know that movie. I mean, from a psychological standpoint, I'm not a psychologist, but there's something wrong with a person who gets kicks out of inflicting pain onto innocent creatures and killing them. And by the way, most serial killers start their killing careers off by abusing and killing animals. Look up what Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy or the Boston Strangler, all the infamous serial killers. You can read about the unimaginable, horrible things they did to animals, including people's pets. And just think about this. What are some of the characteristics of a psychopath? Pathologic egocentricity, selfishness, lack of empathy, inability to deeply feel emotion or shame or guilt, violence, fail to accept responsibility, which brings me back to Dr. Walter Palmer. So after the fun he had with Cecil the Lion, this jackass tried to destroy the tracking collar that was on Cecil. But the researchers at Oxford who were tracking Cecil traced the signal and found the carcass anyway. And putting ethics aside here for a minute, okay? Did Palmer do anything wrong? Did he do anything unlawful? Or is he just your run-of-the-mill sport hunter? Well, yeah, he broke two laws. One, deliberately luring an animal from the protected park to kill it. And two, removing the lion's identifying collar, which served to protect Cecil from being hunted in the first place. If you remember this story, you remember the story just exploded on the internet and on social media and on cable news. I mean, everyone's posting about it. Everyone's talking about it. In front of Dr. Palmer's dental office, people placed stuffed animals, lions and bears, and pictures of Cecil were displayed. And you could see signs on the front door of the office stating "Rot in Hell" and "The Butcher of Bloomington," referring to the dentist, of course. And if this is indeed the first time you're learning about the story of Cecil, do me a favor. Google search Cecil the Lion and look at this beautiful animal whose life was brutally taken away from him. Just get an image of Cecil in your mind. It'll take you 30 seconds to see what Cecil looked like and who he was, and to honor him. So why was this specific hunting incident getting so much attention? Why was the killing of Cecil more heinous than the killing of any other lion one would hunt? Even though a lot of people are disgusted by all sport hunting, and I would guess and I would hope a lot of us are disgusted or saddened, even just seeing a picture or post on social media of a hunted down animal next to his killer. But in this case, so many people, not just animal activists, were outraged by the story. And probably because this was an illegal hunt and because Cecil was so well known and so loved by the locals. And this vile person ended this poor animal's life, and in such a terrible way. And the suffering that Cecil had to endure for those 40 hours after being wounded with an arrow. So this story was huge. And the dentist, oh, by the way, his website at the River Bluff Dental Clinic in Minnesota, part of the description of his dental office, I guess you call it like a tagline, it reads, "Dr. Palmer strives to create dazzling smiles." I thought that was funny. But I'll tell you, he became one hated guy, big time. And Cecil's death was mourned by thousands on social media. And like I said, this incident sparked protests across the world. So much so that Cecil's head and skin were passed to the authorities in Zimbabwe in an effort to diffuse international anger. And Palmer was hiding out and laying low for a bit. He closed his dental office. He emailed a statement to the news trying to defend his actions, that he didn't know the lion was a local favorite and he didn't know that the lion was collared and part of a study. He went on to say that he, quote, hired several professional guides and they secured all proper permits. So essentially, he's saying he didn't know he was doing anything illegal. He's so full of it, isn't he? I mean, there's no way one can believe that Palmer had no idea who Cecil was and that Cecil was protected. Reportedly, Palmer lured Cecil out of the park with an elephant carcass, and he tried to destroy Cecil's tracking collar. So he knew exactly who Cecil was and what he was doing. According to the New York Daily News, prior to Cecil, Palmer, quote, has proudly killed at least 43 animals over the years with his bow and arrow, including a polar bear, walrus, wolf, California bighorn sheep, and a rhinoceros. This is a cold, vile, heartless, disgusting person who pays a fortune to hire people to help him lure an innocent animal out of his protected sanctuary to his death. An animal who was so adored by everyone, who the university was tracking so the information can help other lions, like Cecil. Today, we are honoring Cecil the Lion, Africa's most famous and beloved lion, killed by an American dentist called Walter Palmer, who lured Cecil from his peaceful existence, from his protected sanctuary, so he could be shot with a bow and arrow. Cecil, badly wounded, suffered for 40 hours before his life was ended. Palmer not only lured Cecil out of his protected park, but he also removed Cecil's tracking collar. You see, Cecil was being studied and tracked by University of Oxford in order to benefit conservation and benefit other animals like Cecil. In terms of consequences, Walter Palmer faced no legal repercussions for killing Cecil the Lion. Initially, the government of Zimbabwe said it would prosecute both Palmer and the professional guide who took him on the lion hunt. But the government of Zimbabwe never filed the extradition paperwork required to bring Palmer back to Zimbabwe and face charges, and ultimately said the documentation for the hunt was proper. Specifically, why didn't Zimbabwe follow through on the charges? According to BBC News, a court in Zimbabwe had thrown out charges against him because the charges were too vague to enable him to mount a proper defense. I don't know what that means. My guess is, had Zimbabwe charged Palmer, that would dissuade future hunters from going there to hunt, in fear that they might be charged with something. And Zimbabwe depends on money from these trophy hunters. Remember, reportedly, Palmer paid $50,000 for this hunt. So what happened to the good dentist? We haven't heard or read about him in a while. How could that be? Someone like him can't go on without the thrill of killing innocent animals, right? Oh, look what I found here. Back in July of 2020, one headline reads, Cecil the Lion's killer is back on the hunting scene, poaching endangered Mongolian sheep. Another one reads, dentist Walter Palmer, who killed Cecil the Lion, is spotted hunting sheep in Mongolia 5 years after he slaughtered the famous predator with a bow in Zimbabwe. Oh, this is good. Listen to this. This is from the Steeple Times. Monster of the moment. Reprehensible driller, killer, dentist Walter Palmer will forever be remembered for slaying Cecil the Lion. The sexual harasser of his own employees has now gone and done it again. This time the monster massacred an endangered ram. Yes, the American dentist is at it again. He just couldn't resist. He couldn't stand it anymore. He couldn't stand depriving himself any longer, so he returned to his favorite hobby of torturing and killing animals. 5 years after he brutally slaughtered the famous Cecil the Lion, he pays $100,000 to hunt down and kill the world's biggest ram, called the argali, endangered argali. Only 19,000 left in the world. These animals are considered a national treasure. Palmer doesn't care about that. Remember, individuals like him are egocentric, they lack empathy, they have no shame, they feel no guilt. An image appeared on social media with him and his killing buddy showing off the endangered ram he just killed in Mongolia. The dentist used a crossbow, the same method he killed Cecil with. Dr. Teresa Telecki, Wildlife Vice President at Humane Society International, told the Daily Mirror, for trophy hunters to travel to Mongolia to kill a beautiful and endangered ram is an absolute outrage. The Argoli ram is a species in danger of extinction, so the idea that these animals can be killed for pleasure is abhorrent. The killing of Cecil the Lion 5 years ago caused international shock. But clearly the killing for kicks continues. It's time for the law to stop wildlife killers in their tracks by banning trophy hunting. This is from the New York Post. At the time of Cecil's death, Walter took a back seat, an insider told the Mirror. But he's been hunting ever since he was a boy. It was a way of life to him. Walter had undertaken several hunts since Cecil's death. That's an interesting way to say it, since Cecil's death, instead of since he killed Cecil. The trip to Mongolia was his idea. The ram was on his list of hunts he wanted to complete. Would you want this guy taking care of your teeth? I wouldn't want this guy's disgusting fingers in my mouth. Listen to this. This is so good. I'm not going to get into the whole Yelp review controversy surrounding the Walter Palmer story, but this much you should know. After the Cecil story broke, Dr. Walter Palmer disconnects his phone line and takes down his Minnesota dental office's Facebook page. So what do hundreds of thousands of people around the world who are outraged by what he did do? What do? They posted reviews on Palmer's dental practice Yelp page. So within like a day, there were more than 6,400 negative reviews that inundated the page, giving him a 1-star rating. And then what happens? A day or two later, Yelp removes most of the reviews. And then the Yelp reviewers become furious at Yelp for removing their posts and shutting them down. This is from International Business Times. Furious at the sudden disappearance, Yelp reviewers are signing an online petition calling on Yelp to stop stifling their speech. It reads, Yelp's autocratic censorship of this historic, unprecedented outpouring of participation in public debate silenced and disempowered their loyal contributors and deceptively erase the debate from public view, apparently to protect River Bluff Dental and its criminal dentist, Walter Palmer. Initially, Yelp doesn't respond, but later they make a statement saying the reviews posted to Palmer's profiles violates its terms of service and will be removed. Quote, media-fueled reviews typically violate our content guidelines. That's from Yelp. But the great thing here was that as soon as Yelp removed the reviews, dozens more would suddenly appear, and the cycle kept occurring. Yelp would remove the reviews, and people would just keep posting bad reviews on Yelp. And I'm pretty sure Yelp continues to remove reviews even to this day. I mean, you look on Yelp on his page, and there's only like 18 or 20 reviews. And since we have about 1 minute left before the break, let me read a few of these reviews that are at least up there as of today. Dirty tools and rude staff. Worst dentist experience ever. Dr. Palmer was rude and did a sloppy job cleaning my teeth. I was visiting my sister and needed work done on a tooth. The place is a mess for a medical office. I was shocked at the lack of empathy and bedside manner by this dentist. He was rough. I ended up getting an infection in my tooth and my dentist had to fix it. Do not go here. In town on business and tooth started hurting. Went there. Big mistake. Office setting was drab and dirty. Staff did not seem to care. Dr. Palmer was equally inattentive. Unfortunately, emergencies come up and you're forced to go to horrible places like this. Come in for a drop-in session from New York because my tooth was killing me. Had no choice. He was the nearest one. The office was indeed a mess. Visible dirt. Seems like they didn't care. Wow, office is disgusting. My cousin came out in extreme pain from a simple cleaning. Palmer was cold and somewhat rude. He's clearly not in this business with any desire to help people. If Yelp had 0 stars, I would have chosen that because this place is so dirty. I wonder if they cleaned the floors. There was no air conditioning. I should have just got up and left. Like there was dust everywhere, even on the tools. It was disgusting. Okay, ready? One more. This is my favorite one. Rude staff, Messy lobby, kids screaming from the back somewhere. Very unpleasant experience. I'd rather have my husband pull out my teeth with pliers than go there again. Yes.